Who is Guardians rookie pitcher Gavin Williams? The meter is finally running strong. Join us today where we provide you with the best must-add players heading into the weekend on this action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Sports Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino, here as always with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, my better half, Matthew Wane.
Yo.
As always, you can find us on all social media platforms and podcasting apps. And if you're listening on one like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit the little bell below. It subscribes you to the channel, also gives you a notification for every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, but most importantly, please subscribe to us on our new platform, Subtext, if you want a more in-depth and personalized experience with Matt and I, and just Locked On Fantasy Baseball in general. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. A championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Stay in the game with eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit at ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay's Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions may apply. Locked On Fantasy Baseball fans, we have a fully loaded episode for you today. As always, let us be your team's secret weapon, where we provide you with the best must-add waiver wire players heading into the weekend. And Matt, these prospects just keep on coming and they don't stop, and I'm loving it. Who do we got up first?
Yep, can't stop, won't stop. And we got Mr. Gavin Williams here. Now, as we're watching here, Gavin Williams is struggling in his first big league debut. But, I mean, it is what it is. This is how I'm treating it. It's his first shot at the bigs coming up from, I believe, AAA with only I had about 46 innings pitched in there. So, I mean, he had somewhat of a showing in AAA. But, I mean, honestly, it's a big jump up from going from minors to bigs. Even though it is Oakland, things still happen. It's also the first-time jitters. So, I'm going to give him a pass on this, in all honesty. I still think he could be a real impactful player for fantasy baseball this year. The kid has a lot of good stuff. Honestly, I think he can come out here and do what Yuri Perez is doing right now. We shall see. I really do like Gavin Williams. Let me give you a little stats to back that up, right? This year between AA and AAA, he has 60 innings pitched. He has 81 Ks. He has a 2.39 ERA. And my guy is just doing his thing with a sub-1 whip. Gavin Williams has all the potential in the world. The wide ranges of outcomes. I mean, he could absolutely flop. Do not get me wrong. Any prospect can come up, no matter how highly touted they are, and flop 100%. We've seen it in the past with Joe Adell. We've seen it with Kelnick. We've seen it with, Vladdy for the first couple of years. It may take time. Or we see people come up and translate instantly, like Yuri Perez, like Shane Bieber, like Shane McClanahan. There's a wide range of Spencer Strider. He's like a super, super freaking translation. He's like instant Star Wars. So he's an exception to the rule. And looks like maybe even Yuri Perez. Gavin Williams has, like I said, a wide range of outcomes that is possible here. And I really like him. He is my number one pickup. So if he's available in your leagues, run out, get him. Points leagues, 100%, because you know what? You guys, normally most standard points leagues are heavily weighted on pitching. Pitching is a really hard thing to come by. So Gavin Williams could be somebody that could be your pocket ace going late into the season. I really love him. And truthfully, do not sleep on Gavin Williams.
Yeah, Matt, I'm definitely highly disappointed in Gavin Williams so far today. I think you mentioned the 4 runs today so far through 4 innings against Oakland with only 2 strikeouts. It's a poor debut.
It's still
Gavin
going
Williams.
though.
It looks like he's still going. Let's see how he does fifth, makes it to the sixth. Maybe, things will look a little bit better in the overall line, but still, it's just not looking great. The thing with Gavin Williams is he's a little bit more Bryce Miller-ish than Yuri Perez-ish, in my opinion, because Yuri has pretty good breaking stuff as to where Gavin Williams' fastball is great. Throws anywhere from like 94 to 100 miles an hour, but the breaking stuff isn't as, developed yet as like a Yuri Perez is. And same thing with Bryce Miller. That's why I'm comparing him to Bryce Miller. Bryce Miller is a very fastball heavy pitcher. I know he's been working on his sweeper, which looks a little bit better through his last couple of starts. I hope Gavin Williams can develop those secondary pitches and the breaking stuff, a little bit better. While he's here in the bigs, he's definitely got the guys to learn from with, Bieber and the rest of the crew there in Cleveland. So hopefully that comes on for Gavin Williams. Matt, you did a great breakdown here on Gavin Williams. I definitely think he's a must-add. He's 44% owned on Yahoo, so he's definitely climbing up there. I agree, though. Grab him now before, it takes off and he winds up being like, 70, 80% owned. And if that next start goes good, I'm not sure who it's going to be against, but I could check real quick, possibly. Kansas City, maybe. So, it's actually another good start. No Vinny P there. You just got to really worry about Bobby Witt. And definitely Gavin Williams could definitely be good. The upside is there, so he is a must add. But let's move on to one of our boys. If you guys are with us in the offseason, Reid Detmers, the pun that we came up with is Demeters running. I think it was specifically Matt. So, kudos to Matt. Matt's the nickname guy around here. He's coming up with all the great nicknames. And Demeter is officially running strong, as I mentioned at the top of the episode. Last 3 starts, 8 strikeouts in each of them. 2 very good teams with the Dodgers and the Texas Rangers. 2 very good lineups. He handled them both very, very well. Let me get you those numbers over the last 30 days for Detmers because he's just been absolutely dominant. And he's still only 37% owned right now on Yahoo. We all know the upside for Detmers. He had a very good, run last year throughout the end of the year. 28 innings for Detmers, 31 strikeouts, 2.83 ERA, and a 1.26 WHIP over the last 30 days. So those numbers look very, very strong. And who does he have up next? Gets the White Sox. Another good team. Really just have to worry about Luis Robert and Eloy there. Otherwise, lineup is not as good as it used to be. So I think Detmers, another must-add. We have a lot of good starting pitchers for you today, and you kind of pick and choose your best. If I might rank them when they're all said and done and we have all the names out there. But Reid Detmers, the meter is running strong. Go add him.
Yeah, 100%. The meter is running, and you know what? Quite honestly, he's parked maybe on your waiver wire, and you know what? Somebody's going to figure that out soon and need to pick him up. We keep saying, and especially me, about how pitching is weak on the waivers. These are the names we're going to throw out today, or throwing out today, are probably your best bet at who's going to hit here for at least a couple weeks. And this next guy is proof in the pudding right here. I'm going to try and keep this quick. Mr. Ranger Suarez. Started off the year slow after coming back from the injury, but I mean, who didn't see that coming? A pitcher coming back from injury and starting off slow, right? But now he's really turned it on here. On the last month, he's had 37 innings pitched. He has 1 win, 34 Ks, 2.39 ERA with a 1.06 WHIP. Low-key Ranger Suarez has really good stats throughout his career. He is a career 3.16 ERA. He's really not a K per 9 guy, but he gets really close. I mean, actually on his career, he's about 40 Ks off his total innings pitched. So, that's kind of really where you're going to be. He's not going to get you a K per 9, but he is going to get the job done, keep the ERA down, and chip you in about 4 or 5 Ks. And with the Phillies, there's a good chance they could churn out a win because they're playing a lot better than the start of the season. So Ranger Suarez is definitely a must-add right now.
And before I chime in and give my take on Ranger Suarez, up next we have another guy with a great nickname, the pitcher for Tampa, a guy who's coming back on Friday, got some upside there. And then we go into the bats there, and one of Matt's boys from the Twins is definitely somebody we need to talk about. But real quick, today's episode is sponsored by the clothing company Bird Dogs. Looking for clothes that redefine comfort and style? Look no further than Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs makes you look good with Bird Dogs khaki shorts that are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. They fit way better than regular shorts and are made of a made better. Jesus, I'm struggling through this one, Matt. This is one of my first times here. They fit way better than regular shorts that are made of a stiff, restricting cotton. Bird Dogs fixed this issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. Bird Dogs uses an anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. Bird Dog shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon but fit way better. Bird Dogs just sent Matt and I some shorts, and we're absolutely obsessed with them. So go to birddogs.com/MLB, and when you enter the promo code Locked On MLB, they'll throw in a free custom Bird Dogs Yeti style tumbler with every order. Also, everydayers and new listeners, if you enjoy this podcast, Matt and I are now offering a more in-depth personalized experience on a new website called Subtext. If you subscribe to Locked On Fantasy Baseball on the Subtext website and become a member of the Everydayers Diamond Club, you'll now have direct, unlimited access to us. Members of the Diamond Club will get instant alerts and takes on prospect call-ups, injuries, and in-depth waiver wire ads. Best of all, we'll be answering all of your questions right away. Subscribing to us on Subtext will give you a leg up on the competition and help lead you to an everydayer championship. The link to subscribe in our Subtext will be in the description of this video, podcast, and in our link tree, which is in all of our social media bios. Don't miss out on the opportunity with a free 14-day trial and only $4.99 a month after that, where Matt and I will help you bring home that everydayers championship. But with all that being said, and me struggling through that, Matt. Let me keep going. I'll give my Ranger Suarez take. I might as well just keep going at this point. Ranger Suarez is a very good pitcher. He's still only 27 years old. He had that 2021 season where I picked him up in almost every fantasy league I was in with that 1.36 ERA, 106 innings, 107 Ks, and that clean one whip. I mean, it was fantastic. A lot of those starts came against like the Pirates and, teams that weren't really that good at the time. I think a couple of them were against Detroit. So, it was kind of like, okay, will this guy keep it going? And then last year, he had a pretty solid year, too, with that 3.65 ERA. The whip was a little bit high. So I think what Ranger Suarez struggles with is control a little bit. He suppresses runs almost at that K per 9 this year. Going to win you some games with that, good Phillies team. Hopefully, his record's 1-2 so far. So hopefully he picks you up a couple more wins. Probably a little bit closer to the bottom of the guys we're talking about today, in my opinion. But Suarez is still 37% owned, and let's see who he gets up next. He looks like he's going to get the Mets, which is a tough matchup, but we'll see how things go. Ranger Suarez is definitely worth the ad. But, Matt, take this next guy, please.
Yeah, I got you. We're going to talk about Mr. Taj Bradley. My guy has had a very up and down kind of season so far, but he has great stuff. He has had a couple starts where, he goes out there, he'll have like a 4.15 ERA, but have 11 Ks. Like his last start against Oakland, which Gavin Williams should be doing. Then he goes out against Texas, gets lit up, and then, handles himself like a man against Boston, against Chicago, gets lit up against Toronto, handles the Mets, and then gets lit up on his first start. Well, not his first start, but one of his first starts against Houston. I mean, he does have a lot of upside. The K upside is absolutely phenomenal. Like, if you're just like, whatever, you really can't win ERA or just, need to get the W, Taj Mahal might be able to go out there and get the job done for you. And quite honestly, I think this last start against Baltimore, he went out and had 8 Ks and a 1.5 ERA. It could be the start of something special. I'm not going to say he's going to have a sub-2 ERA moving forward, but I am going to say, maybe he's reining it in, maybe he's finding his comfort zone, and maybe, he's kind of figuring out what his pitch mix is now that he's in the bigs. Taj Mahal is a very special talent. I do love this kid. There is downside to him, like, hey, he's still young and he still can make mistakes, but in my opinion, he's right up there with everybody we've talked about earlier. Not my number 1, but probably my number 3. And I really do love Taj Bradley 100% this year. You need to scoop him up if you can. You might even want to think about even trading for him. He's available in about 41% of leagues, 59% owned. So I would even consider trading for him, seeing if that manager doesn't know too much about him and is willing to move on and move him for somebody that's kind of overperforming and kind of sneak him in a trade. I really do like Taj Bradley, and you should think about adding him.
Yeah, I'm big on Taj. I'll be honest with you. I think he's my number one starting pitcher that we're talking about today. I think I would take him over pretty much everybody that we've talked about at this point. The thing is the upside is there. He has a great pitch mix with a good fastball, good breaking stuff. I think he has a lot of upside. Out of his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 starts, 3 of them are very inspiring. There's one mixed in there that was all right against Boston with the 5 innings, 6 Ks, 3 runs, and the whip was a little high in that one. But his last 2 starts, as Matt mentioned, 11 Ks against Oakland, 3 runs. The whip was a little bit high at 1.6. But then today he pitched against Baltimore, 6 innings, 8 Ks, 1 run, 0.5 whip. Fantastic. Think he's turning a corner, as Matt mentioned. I'll give you his ERA and whip with this start included. It's a 3.86 ERA and a 1.20 whip on the season for Bradley, well over that K per 9 number. And the thing with Taj is that he actually threw 133 innings last year. So I could see him throwing 160, 170, 175 if Tampa wants to let him go and just run it out there. I don't see why not. Tampa is one of the best teams in baseball, and I think Taj is going to be one of the big reasons they make that strong playoff and World Series push. So let the kid throw, and I don't see why they wouldn't really let him, just keep going. As I said, that innings number was at 133 last year. Let's move on to our last pitcher here before we move on to some great bats for you guys. And I know we've talked about this guy a little bit. Maybe we're talking about him too much, but Kenta Maeda. Kenta Maeda is a little sneaky ad right now at 18% owned on Yahoo. He's coming back Friday, and he's got a nice, juicy matchup against the Detroit Tigers. So you're going to want to add him for that one. The Tigers have been very, very poor this season. Kenta Maeda has only thrown 16 innings this year, so you can't judge him by that. I really wouldn't go look at those numbers and feel any type of way about it. Kenta Maeda is somebody that has a lot of talent. A couple years back, he put his hat into that Cy Young race. I believe it was 2020. Just let me double check myself here. It was 2020. And in 2020, Maeda went 6-1 with a 2.70 ERA, 11 starts, 66 innings, 80 Ks, and he had a 0.75 whip. So, if Maeda can get back on track, and, I don't think he's going to be that good, but a mid threes ERA, over a K per 9, a pretty solid whip. I think Maeda is a pretty solid ad, going into, the weekend here with that start against Detroit.
Yeah, absolutely. Love me some Kenta Maeda. My guy could really turn it around. It looked like his first start of the season was real nice. And it looked like all throughout spring he was having a decent spring, and then the injury popped up with his tricep, and they had to shut him down. He should be starting this weekend, which is great. So I'd really consider adding him. And before we move on and we talk about a great bat from the Guardians, a catcher from Toronto, and another catcher from the Guardians that everybody's been chatting about, we got a great sponsor you got to talk about here. All right. And without further ado, guys, we're going to talk about Mr. Amed Rosario. We've been getting a lot of questions about him. Should I add him? Should I not? What am I willing to do here, and who am I willing to give up? So if you have a middling bat that isn't like a Byron Buxton on your bench, and you're a little frustrated with the end of your bench, drop him, pick up Amed Rosario, and I'll tell you why. Amed his batting average is lights out right now. Over the last 2 weeks, he's batting about a 385. This last week, a 481. My number one rule, and you guys keep hearing me say it every single one of these waiver wire episodes, batting average off the waiver wires is a must add for me. And he's been consistent through 2 weeks and through a whole month, batting 278. So he is holding his own. Now, we all know what Amed Rosario is. He's not going to get you a lot of home runs, but the Guardians aren't going to give him a lot of ribbies, but he might have an opportunity to get some runs. We shall see, but it's not going to be something that's going to blow you away. But so if you need batting average help, you have like a Joey Gallo in the lineup, or, a struggling power bat, that's somebody that hasn't gotten their groove yet. Amed Rosario can subsidize the pain that you're getting in your batting average category, and he could chip you in the steals. So he'll be like a 2-category contributor, and then every once in a while chip you in a few runs and a few ribbies. And if you're really lucky, maybe a home run on the week. Right now, Amed Rosario is about 47% owned, and I feel like he's not a must add, but if you missed out on steals and, like I said, somebody's kind of destroying your batting average with their hit for power, he could supplement that and be a good add for you, especially on those off days. So definitely take a look at Amed Rosario.
Matt, great, awesome take. I'll just chime in with saying that he's a 3-category guy. As you mentioned, he's going to help you in runs. He's going to help you in steals. He's going to help you in batting average. Career 273 hitter is Amed Rosario. So definitely go out there and give him a shot. As we always say, shortstop has been quite dreadful this year. He could definitely help you at the shortstop position. But let's transition into another Guardian here. And let's talk about Bo Naylor. I know we've been getting a lot of questions about Bo Naylor, a lot of noise being made about Bo Naylor. I'm going to start by saying this. I 100,000% will take Henry Davis over him. If you have the choice still between Henry Davis and Bo Naylor, I'm taking Henry Davis. There's a reason Henry Davis was the number 1 pick. He's had a couple of hard hit balls so far, and I think he's going to take off at some point. But let's talk about Bo Naylor, though. Bo Naylor is nothing to, sneeze at either. The 23-year-old, catcher here for the Guardians is a, pretty highly touted prospect. He's got a decent amount of power. He's also got some speed in him. He's not going to blow you away with the batting average. I think he could be like a 240, 250 hitter. For the rest of the season, maybe you get 15 home runs and let's say like 10 steals out of him with that, mediocre batting average. But you know what? With catcher being the way it is this year, man, it almost kind of pays off to at least have a second catcher on your roster, even in a 1-catcher league, so you can kind of keep riding the hot hand. If you have one of the Contreras brothers, if you have Kirk, who just went down, and guys, even Tyler Stevenson, who's been kind of mediocre, you might want to supplement them with having a Henry Davis or a Bo Naylor on your roster. So, hey, you could always just be playing the hot hand and see where things go. But Bo Naylor, as I mentioned, has some upside. That Guardians lineup is all right. It's not as good as we kind of thought it was going to be. But you can give Bo Naylor a chance. He's only 14% owned on Yahoo. That has to be way higher, especially in those 2-catcher leagues and those deeper 15-man leagues. Bo Naylor is definitely a starting catcher in both of those types of formats.
Great take, Dom. I don't feel I need to add anything. Quite honestly, you pretty much nailed it. Add Bo Naylor, guys. But let's move on here. Let's talk about Mr. Danny Jansen. Honestly, your direct replacement for Alejandro Kirk. My guy is going to play every day at the catcher position, which is a bonus. There's nobody in his way. So the only time you're probably going to see him catch a day off is if they're giving him a break. Danny Jansen has power. If he does play every day, there's a lot of home run upside. There's ribby upside because we know what Toronto can be, and obviously runs. He's not going to steal your bases. He's going to mutilate your batting average. But I mean, again, if you're getting the other 3 categories from your catcher position, that's great. That's chipping in. And quite honestly, if he plays 4 days a week, 5 days, and he's not going to destroy your batting average. Over the last week, too, he is hitting 273. He also had 3 home runs last week, 4 ribs, and 3 runs. So Danny Jansen is contributing right now, and you need to go scoop him up, especially if you're struggling at catcher. There's catcher has been atrocious, like Dom just said when he was talking about Bo Naylor. Danny Jansen is going to play for the foreseeable future. Alejandro Kirk has a hand contusion, and you know what? That may take a couple weeks just for him to get back because they want him to be able to do all the things that is right. He's not just, a regular old, baseball, regular old position like first, second, third, outfield, right? He has to catch the ball at 95 miles an hour. So, and he's going to have to throw over a much harder position. So catcher is probably the second hardest position all field, in my opinion. So they may take their time with bringing back Kirk. So Danny Jansen has short-term value, but a lot of value in that short time. So definitely add Danny Jansen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not thrilled about Danny Jansen. I feel like if you missed out on Naylor and Davis and you're just struggling at the catcher position, it's kind of like a juice the orange situation with Danny Jansen here. As Matt mentioned, he's got power. He's been hitting for it over the past 7 days. So, like I said, 19% owned. If you need Danny Jansen, he's out there in a lot of leagues. Feel free to add him. That Blue Jays lineup is pretty solid over there. But Matt, great take, so I'm not going to add much more. But let's talk about one of Matt's boys. So I'll keep it short, and I'll let Matt, do the pretty much deep dive here, and it's Royce Lewis. Now, Royce Lewis has had some ups and downs since he, got called back up, and, it's with fair reason. He's recovering from a tough injury. Matt, ACL, right? Second ACL for Royce Lewis, I think?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so with Royce, it's bound to be some up and downs. It looks like he's getting a couple of days off here and there to rest. So, but the numbers on the overall season look pretty good with the 311 batting average, 3 homers, 11 RBIs, 7 runs, no steals. I'd love to see him, start taking off on those base paths a little bit more, especially, with steals being up. Those bigger bases are paying off for a lot of players. I think Royce Lewis can get involved in that mix right now. He's actually down 7% ownership on the last week, which I think is kind of a little bit stunning in my opinion. 35% owned total right now for Royce Lewis on Yahoo. That needs to be higher. Royce Lewis, was a very, very highly touted prospect, a lot of upside. But Matt, I'll let you deep dive here on Royce Lewis if you want. That's kind of my 2 cents. Just he kind of should be owned in a lot more leagues than he is.
Absolutely. I mean, 35% is atrocious, and thank you for handing it off. I'm really excited to talk about him. You know what? I get it. He had a bad week, and he really just was kind of looking ugly. He didn't really do much. And for the average baseball fan, they don't know who Royce Lewis is. He's been a top prospect for a long time. If it wasn't for the fact he got the first ACL injury and then the second one last year, we would be talking about Royce Lewis in a much higher regards because he was one of the few players that translated from instantly coming up. And I mean, look, baseball players slump. Like it is what it is. But he's performing. I mean, last 2 weeks have just been great for him. 4 runs, a bomb, 5 ribs, 389. Like the counting stats aren't really great right now, but I mean, they're going to come. But 389 from a guy that just got the call again for barely playing 25 games in the bigs his total career. Like, come on now. Like Royce Lewis is going to get the job done. And I think there's so much upside. And Dom said he hasn't even started running the bases yet. I think they're kind of giving him the pause button on that to make sure that the ACL is okay. Once that starts moving and grooving and they say they got the feeling that he's good, here comes the 5 category contributor because he does have power and he can steal bases out to wazoo. Royce Lewis has a lot of upside in that category, so you need to scoop him up. 35% is way too low. And with shortstop looking like this, you need to really put that on and really add him everywhere you look. You're going to be smiling all the way to the Everydayers Championship with Royce Lewis on your team. All right. Let's talk about this last dude here, and then we're going to get up out of here. Let's talk about Mr. Eddie Rosario. We got all the Rosarios on this. I mean, shoot, is this a pizzeria? I don't know. Sorry, guys. It's a little Staten Island joke where Dom and I are from. But let me just get this up real quick. Apologize. Here we go. All right. Eddie Rosario, again, he's hitting my batting average rule. He's hitting about 318 over the last month, 341 over the last 2 weeks, and 556 last week. And last week was just monstrous with 10 runs, 5 bombs, 11 ribs, batting 556. How you doing? If you happen to play him in So Rare, you're chilling. If you played him in FanDuel all week, you're really chilling. If you played him in your fantasy lineup all week, you're looking like gold. Those stats are hard to come by in a single week. Now, he's not this good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Rosario's got a little power in him, but like this kind of week is just like a once in a lifetime week. Like, you ever see the episode of How I Met Your Mother with Barney in the perfect week? Like, hey, Eddie Rosario pretty much had like the perfect week. This ain't going to happen again, but he's still hot as hell because the batting average over the last month is indicative of what he's going to do. So he's going to put the bat to the ball. He's going to get counting stats, and he's going to get you at least runs. Home runs, we'll see, maybe 1 or 2. That's great. And the ribs on Atlanta Braves, that comes with ease, and the runs. So, I mean, quite honestly, Eddie Rosario is a must-add. I wouldn't be running out to go get him, but he is 48% owned. So if you're struggling right now and you need batting average, need runs and ribs to influx your for the week, Rosario's your guy, and definitely take a look.
Yeah, man. So I agree with pretty much everything you said there, except I think you got to add him. I think it's a pause the podcast if you got this far. Add him if he's available and he's owned in 48% of Yahoo leagues. But the thing with Eddie Rosario is, out of all the batters that we talked about today, this guy, is the most finely tuned. He's been around. He's done it before. It reminds me of back when I had Eddie Rosario pretty much every year from like 2017 to 2019, where he was an all-star caliber. The power's legit. The guy has a 32 home run season. He has a 27 home run season. He has a 24 home run season in 138 games. The 32 home runs actually came in 137 games. And then he kind of, the 2020 was a short season. I don't count that for anybody. In 2021, he was banged up. Last year, he was banged up as well. But a healthy Eddie Rosario is an all-star caliber player. He can literally contribute in 5 categories. Steals, he's 31, so the sprint speed is a little bit, lower than it used to be. But, hey, he can get you, 7 to 10 steals. The batting average, he's a career 270 guy, so he's right on par. But the runs and the RBIs, as Matt mentioned, are legit in that Braves lineup. He's hitting 7th, which is actually a nice little sweet spot in that lineup because the bottom of the Braves lineup isn't bad. The guys in front of him are pretty strong too, so he could drive him in and be driven in. Eddie Rosario, must add, honestly. If he's out there in your leagues, go out there and pick him up. But with that being said, Matt, anything else before we wrap it up?
Nah, just, don't give up yet, guys. If you made it this far, don't give up. Because everybody else is about to give up. And here at Locked On Fantasy Baseball, we don't give up. And that's how we sneak our way into the show. And then once we're at the show and we're playing in the playoffs, it's anybody's game. And we're going to guide you to that everydayers championship. So just keep staying tuned because this is how you win championships. But Dom, take it away.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is well said, my brother. But guys, that is all for today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review, and especially subscribe on Subtext, guys. We're telling you, if you're not a member of the Diamond Club yet, you're truly missing out on a great experience. But make sure you lock on in for a new episode tomorrow. And a shout out to our everydayers and new listeners. We truly appreciate you all. But guys, until tomorrow, see you.
Peace.